With all the input delay, lags, FPS spikes on mobile, it can be hard to rank up. But that's why I'm coming here today with a method for any mobile player to hit a high rank, maybe even Unreal. Before we get into the strategy, I believe it's important to say why the strategy works. As a personal testimonial, I used this strategy to hit Unreal and become one of the first top 150 people to hit Unreal last season, only playing solos. Isn't that crazy? Since the strategy is also placement based, it'll be underutilized. Strategies of the past are often overused now, like W keying to get points, you know? Since there are way more players W keying now, placement is something you can rely on that will be consistent regardless of the meta, unless they change the rank system, of course. Now, let's get into the actual strategy, starting with which ranked game mode is best. And it's ranked solos. When compared to the other modes, ranked solos is the only mode where you can place placement and get a decent amount of percentage back. Now, let's get to the drop spots, which is somewhat genuinely hard to find nowadays. You're going to want to land somewhere rarely contested. Fighting early on is the biggest risk you can take when playing for percentage, as if you die, you lose the maximum amount of percentage, usually 8% or more. A genuine, good question you may ask is, what drops are uncontested? It's understandable not to know, as seemingly people land everywhere on the map, and the map changes often. But the best drops for staying uncontested this season, at least, is near the former one chest rift spawns. In Chapter 4 Season 2, people landed there for the rifts. Now that they no longer spawn or exist on these one chest spawns, most assume that there's no benefit landing there. Landing at any of these temples should create an easy off spawn with little to minimal, usually no players at all, and makes it easy to transition into the next part of the strategy. Early game. During this part of the game, off spawn basically, farm materials and get shield. Near the temple rifts, there are regenerating shield plants, which you can break and not need to pop shields at all. However, this is only adding to the main priority. Rotate out of your drop fast. During first zone, majority of players are looting or fighting players that landed near them, off spawn. You want to be playing for the dead side, or the side of the map where the least players are. This is where the circle pulls towards early on. As an example, this circle would have a dead side southwest, as the circle has pulled down southwest. On top of this, you want to be rotating on the outer edges of the map. Usually the least amount of players will be in these areas. When rotating, try to avoid open areas that are flat terrain, no trees and buildings in sight. These are the easiest areas to be seen in and potentially fought at. Rather, rotate around trees and below mountains, out of sight of most who may try to fight. You can see me doing that here, using below a mountain, basically in a valley-like area, to break line of sight and make sure nobody can see me. For mid-game and majority of the rest of the game, you want to get to dead side and stay on dead side. Luckily for this example game, my drop had already pulled near dead side, so I only had to do a minimal rotation. Doing this keeps the amount of players you are fighting low, if any at all. It also makes future rotates easier, as nobody will be accompanying you when in these areas to hold or fight you, and the zone will continue to pull towards you, meaning you don't have to move at all. Crucial tip for anybody doing this strategy: do not box up when you are camping. When good players see a box, they will fight it with no hesitation, as it is a telltale sign the person in the box is camping and playing for placement. As a workaround, take use of natural terrain. Sit in a bush like I do here, or a building. This will draw the least attention to you, while also giving you a good position for future zones. Starting in 6th zone, the dead side is no longer the side of circle with the least people, but rather the side that is covered completely in zone. Before the zone pulls, only the half not covered by zone will have people. So what does this mean? When the zone pulls, you want to rotate to where the storm was, which will no longer be covered. Try to get in as deeply as possible to make sure you don't run into players, as I do here, trying to run to the deepest area that was covered in zone. Unfortunately, I have to get an elimination here. Apologies to the McLovin fan that I had to eliminate. Flash forward to 7th zone of this game, I am still using the strategy. I'm going to the storm side of circle where nobody is. Look how well this works. As soon as I land, there's only a single other person in the area, and he was to my left. This means that 5 players are on the other side of the map, and only me and this guy are on this side, making the rotate very easy for the both of us. Continue to do rotates like these until the next and arguably most important part of the game Endgame. From 8th zone on, when possible, your sole priority should be to stay ahead of the zone at all times. Whether this means rocket ramming, shockwaving, or using whatever mobility in the game is up to you, I recommend shockwaves. But regardless of zone, make it a priority to stay ahead. This is a little harder to do in tournament endgames, but since we are in ranked endgames, the games are less stacked, making things a little more simple. Find where the least amount of people are during these moving zones and rotate around there. During this time, you can look behind yourself for extra eliminations. This can help net you some extra percentage, and usually has no disbenefit, as other players ahead with you will also look back. Keep staying ahead and you should guarantee net a top 5, which is guaranteed return on percent, plus a little more. Here's an example of me staying ahead in this endgame. When I use the rocket ram, I make sure I land in the very front of the zone, so in case it pulls that way, I can look back at everybody else. I also, like I said, use this position to look back and potentially get players who rotated late in the back of zone eliminated. Here I am doing the move again. I do get beamed here, but I can definitely say it was worthwhile as I would not get held by all of the players back zone. Here is the strategy a third time's the charm. I use the rocket ram right here, get ahead of everybody else, and put myself in a good position. Unfortunately, due to some poor decision making on my part, I am not able to clutch up the win, but am still able to get a second place. Trust me, when you do this strategy, top 5 becomes easy. You'll get it every time. I mean, look at this. I only got 1 elimination and a second, and boom! With this game adding over 20% plus the 20% rank up boost. And there you go, that is the strategy. Here is a quick summary of it, cause I did say a lot. Went off spawn, landed at an uncontested drop, which in this season are usually one of the one chest rift areas. Rotate out of the said drop fast and get to dead side, cause everybody else is fighting. Use terrain to rotate with, like staying under mountains or rotating around trees. When hiding, do not box up. This will get you W keyed by a good player. Instead, use buildings and bushes, which help not blow your cover. When 6 zone pulls, rotate to the side covered in zone, as nobody will be there. And finally, when you are in endgame, pretty much 8th zone and on, focus on getting ahead at all costs. This will make looking for eliminations easier and make sure you don't get held and stuck in the zone. If you enjoyed this content, like for more and let me know what topics you want me to hit on below. I will hit them. I will try to push out specialized tips and tricks videos this season, and trust me, I need ideas. What do you guys want to see? And that's all I got for this educational video. That was Teacher P. Take care, and peace.